Years ago, the city limits of Chattanooga, I believe, only extended maybe to Central Avenue, and then maybe to Missionary Ridge or Dodds Avenue, and this out here, east of Missionary Ridge, which is where we are, was kind of out in the, was not in the city limits, and this church was founded, and we're fortunate to have here a man, a very distinguished man, several distinguished men, but one who had a chance to interview a man named C.B. Robinson. We're going to hear the story from Councilman Moses Freeman, who in 1983 interviewed C.B. Robinson, and he was really quite a historic figure, as I understand. Several claims to fame he had, but one was he brought a man who later became the first African-American Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall. So this church and this congregation has played a vital role in Chattanooga's history for over 140 years. The services now, the congregation itself, on account of the poor access to the church, they had the parking lot across the street, and as you all know, Shalford Road's a very busy road, and they would have to climb up the stairs, and so it got to where many of the members could not make it to the service every day, and now they have moved over to Wilcox Boulevard, where it's called Mission Ridge Baptist Church. So right now this church is just a building.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to everybody. I'm delighted to be here today, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to digress from what I was asked to do and tell you that because of last night, I was with, how many of you are familiar with gangs? If you are, raise your hand. Last night I was with a call-in with gang members, about the same number of people that's sitting in this room. We had about 100 citizens from Chattanooga, the police department, the FBI, and a lot of law enforcement people, and we were asking them and trying to convince them to turn their life around. And we pledged that we were going to help them do it if they would just stop the violence. If they came forward, we would, by calling a certain number, we would help them finish high school and get a degree, GED degree. We would help them get jobs. We would help them find a place to live. We would help their family. We would do everything we could as a community to help these people turn their life around. Most of them are in gangs, and they have seen their brothers killed, their uncles killed, their fathers killed. They've just seen the worst of life. And I'm going to tell you, when it boils down to it, it's all because they didn't get opportunities that you're getting now. I'm an old man now, but I went through my whole life working every day. And you know what I had to do every day? I had to write, I had to read, I had to spell, and I had to do math. And because when I was in elementary school, I learned those things, I was able to do them the rest of my life. And I was able to be successful the rest of my life. And above all of those things, I was able to continue to be happy. Happy. Because that's what you want to be when you grow up. You always want to be happy. You always want to have a smile on your face. You never want to have problems. And it starts with school. Doing good in school. With those three things. Because, boy, I can't tell you, everybody I know who went to school with me who didn't do well, they're not so happy. Most of them never lived to be as old as I am. So that's my message to you today, of all of the things that I tell you, is to do that. Now let me give you a little history lesson, if I will. As he told you, Chattanooga, this didn't used to be Chattanooga. This was a little community called Hornsville, Tennessee. Hornsville had its own post office, which was down the street about around that curve down there at Rockaway Drive, which is about no more than a mile from here. And this was an African-American community who lived all around here. They lived over there in Shepherd Hill. They lived up on the ridge and everything. And a man by the name of Mr. Shepherd decided that he wanted to develop this neighborhood and wanted to get all the African Americans out. And just like I'm standing talking to you today, Mr. Shepherd, who was white, came to that church and told them that they had to move. And a lady by the name of Mrs. Robinson, C.B. Robinson's mother, said that they were not going to move. So what did Mr. Shepherd do? Well, we can't prove that he did it. But I would tell you that right after that meeting, this building, which was not the original building, this church, Missionary Ridge, was burned twice to the ground, trying to force African Americans around. In fact, there was an African American cemetery called Pleasant Garden, which is right around the corner at the top of the hill back there. And they made African Americans move off the ridge back to Rowe Road, is the name of the road back there. And they moved them one by one by one by one off the ridge. And they developed this area, and they developed the ridge back, you know, in the 50s. Some of this is during my lifetime. I'm so old that I just remember some of it, little parts of it. So this church has had a rich history in our community. A lot of prominent people went here. Now, when Shepherd Hill was built and white people moved in, believe it or not, they supported this church. They gave financial contributions. Some of them came periodically to visit the church. They hired people to work in their homes and in their factories and the companies who went to this church. So it has not always been the bad situation that Mr. Shepherd started out with. There was a relationship between this church and the people who live over in Shepherd Hills and all around. And it's gotten better, even now that there are now blacks who moved back into this neighborhood on the ridge. At least two of the homes that you see up there are there. So things have gotten better for this. But this was a grand church where people felt safe and comfortable, where they could worship, enjoy themselves. They fellowshiped here. They had meals here. They ate together. Their children played here. They died here. The cemetery is back behind here where some of the early church members went. So this was a grand and great place. There's so much that I could tell you about the people that I knew who went to this church, but time won't permit me to do that. I think you ought to enjoy walking around here, but always remember that there were people here who were good people, who were God-fearing people, who made a contribution to our community. And that's what you can do as you grow up. You be God-fearing, make a contribution to the community, get involved, become a city councilman like I am. Don't move in the other direction. Be good with your life. Be happy throughout your whole life. And I wish you peace. Thank you very much.
I'm proud to say that Moses and I have been friends for a long, long time. And I was so happy when he got on the city council because I know his wisdom, the institutional knowledge, the history of this community is priceless to us. Replacing people like Moses Freeman, not that he's going anywhere anytime soon, but I was writing a piece for a little blog that I work on nowadays for a group called Living Cities. And I was talking about the transition, passing the torch to a new generation. That's where you are. You are a rising generation that will have to take over the leadership of this community. Now, I grew up in a little community, Lafayette, Georgia, down in 30 miles from here. Proud to find a friend that I really didn't know from there, who was from there. Back when the schools were segregated, and we were talking about, she went to Hill High, I went to Lafayette High. Hill High was about 100 yards from Lafayette High. The black population of Walker County was about 4%, and they had to collect black students from all over that little county in order to have a separate school system. But that's a long time ago. And since then, the races have gotten together, communities gotten together, and things have gotten better and better. Although Hill High still had the best football team to be missed. But I came to best, as our friend Bob Corker always liked to say, is yet to come, and that's you. So, stay in school, study. I had a friend who used to work with people who were unemployed. And I said to him one time, people say you can get anybody a job. Can you get anybody a job? And he said, anybody who can read. He said, if they can't read, I don't know what to do with it. Now, I'm sure you all can read. If you can't, step forward, tell your teacher, tell your mother. If you've been faking it, and I've employed, when I was Public Works Commissioner for the city years ago, I found that there were a lot of people that I did not know could not read. Had a situation one time when this young man was trying to get a promotion. Nice looking, well presented, white guy. I would have thought he was a college educated. But he came to me and said, I'd really like that job. And I said, well, you know, put in for it. If you're in the top tier, you know, if I can help you, I will. And he looked kind of sad and he said, well, there's something I need to tell you. What's that? I can't read. My jaw dropped, I'm sure. I was flabbergasted. And I said, well, it requires being able to read manuals and things of that nature. And he said, I can get somebody to do that for me if I'm the boss. And I said, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So, I know there are people out there that are below the radar, who don't have the skills that they need for tomorrow. And my friend Moses was just talking about the gangs, and I'm sure that's a nucleus that is affecting their lives and all of our lives because they don't have the skill set that present-day jobs require. I was pleased to get to attract Volkswagen and Amazon and some other fairly significant companies to Chattanooga some years ago. And that restored a manufacturing environment in this community and gave us jobs like Amazon, entry-level jobs, to get your foot on that ladder of success. But one thing that you gotta have is basic skills. I was kind of chuckling inside back there because Moses was talking about reading and arithmetic. Nobody calls it arithmetic anymore, Moses. It's math. Math. I came here to hear Moses. I've done that. You didn't come here to hear me. I've required you to do that. Thank you, Bob, for asking me to come up and say a word or two, and I apologize for saying too many. Thank you.
Dewey, did you come to church, or do you have anything you can tell these folks? Dewey's been a teacher, a math teacher for a number of generations, lived all over the country. And
yeah, I was a arithmetic teacher. I can add more to the history.
yes, sir.
I'm one of the black families that lived in Shepherd Hill, except my property is right here. I walk out of my backyard, come across the church. It's still a dairy farm. And my mother and I were baptized together right behind that little pool thing. That was in the late 40s. Late 40s. Matter of fact, my mother used to live right down the hill. And she used to walk up through here and go to work for people in the Shepherd Hill, a lady named Mrs. Gott. And I used to go over there with her and take care of all the flower garden. So I've been here for a while too. I wasn't living here all that time. I was living in New York, you know, for all the time in different places. I'm probably the oldest person in the building. Almost the oldest church. I'm 80 years old.
Oh, you look great.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm 80 years old. So.
That's right.
This is the first time I've been in the church in about 40 years, probably.
Been that long, huh? Well, really, you know, the first reason that I spoke to Mr. Trammell about you all coming out here is that we, since in the last 5-6 years, have spent a good bit of time clearing this land next door and making it into a farm. So that's something I can talk to you all about, is a little bit about farming. Raise your hand if y'all have a home garden. Okay. Well, I know that the city makes lots of folks are trying to encourage people to eat more healthy, eat fresh food, and
what I have here are tomatoes, red tomatoes, yellow tomatoes, pickled okra, pickled pepper, and green beans. What you do with this is you you sterilize your jars. You get a big pot or either a pressure cooker. You bring it to a boiling boil. Your tomatoes, you take and put them in hot water, cut them in half, or split them down the middle, and put them in the hot water, bring them out for a couple of seconds, bring them out, put them in cold water, and the skins will come off. You pack them in the jars, you put them in what we call a rolling bath. It's a boiling water, and you process them for 20 minutes to 25 minutes. Once you take them out, these jars will seal and they will last through 5 to 7 years. So this is the next process. Anybody growing gardens, want to know anything about canning, feel free to contact me, because this is something that is a lost art. There are very few people that can these days, and I've had the privilege of being able to do it most of my life. Thank you.
I'll tell you, be a little careful walking around. We've done our best to clear the brush away. On a few places you might, if you're not careful, you might find a way to sprain an ankle or something. So do be careful out there. There shouldn't be any glass or nails or anything, but just be careful. Some of the things you'll find out here, starting up here, is we got okra, we got some peppers, some eggplant. I don't know if the eggplants are ready to pick yet. Maybe there might be one ready. Who likes eggplant? Acquired taste, maybe.
Yeah.
Lots of tomatoes. Got a little bit of basil. Basil's just mostly good for seasoning, I think. Had some beans. Had some cabbage. Had some broccoli. As summer gets hot, the broccoli and the cabbage and what else? Broccoli, cabbage. Bees are gone. A lot of the things can't take the real heat. And my advice to y'all, if you're starting farming now, starting a garden at this time of year, the thing that just doesn't quit is okra.
You know what? They got a lot
Oh, God's got a shovel.
I don't think. Oh, I might have to get to a red.
But clean it off.
I'm going to put them in here, we'll wash them off. Then I'll give it back.
First time in the dirt off.
That's what I'm here.
Hey, they're right here.
Yeah, hey, here, make way for the Iowa corn.
Did
Did everyone get one?
Dig it out of there. You got
Hey, if y'all want to rinse them off, there's some water up other.
Oh, okay. You want to rinse it off?
Hey, August, pass me a potato.
Here's a tiny one. I'm done. I look like I just had to follow.
Very good. Thank you.
Oh, that one has holes.
Oh, I see the old. Pick some up. Michaela, look what I found. Michaela, look. Look. Look what I just ripe, Rick. Okay. Can I get a cigar? Look that one. It's all kinds of right here. Right there.
These are huge. You want a big one?
That one. Yeah.
They got the blight.
Yep, this is good.
You feel it, Tug? You just cut the right, just cut that part out of it. It still be some good.
Miss Christina, I need a Band-Aid. Wipe of some kind?
I have, like, why?
That'd be fine. I just need to get.
I need to get off this thing. My stomach.
All right, that's a cut.
Give me a few more seconds. I like that smile.
Okay. Hey.
That's good.
Thank you, Bye. Thank you, Bye. Bye.